Hello and welcome to this basic Excel training level 1. My name is Brent Wickers. I am a Lean Six Sigma Master Black Belt and I will be conducting this basic introduction to Excel training. In this we will cover some basic formatting, conditional formatting, and some basic formulas and things that will get you started down the road into using Excel in the way it's supposed to be used, which is for math.
All right. So what we're going to go over on the level 1 agenda is what a worksheet is versus a workbook. We'll kind of get some knowledge about what rows and columns are, a little bit about fonts and borders, how to format your information. We'll get into cut and paste a little bit. It is a little bit different in Excel than it is in Word and PowerPoint and some of the other Microsoft products. And a little bit about left and right click functions, cell formatting, and then some more functional stuff like what filter and freeze pane is. Those come in handy when you have really long, tall columns of data that you want to sort through. And we'll step into something called conditional formatting a little bit. And conditional formatting is how to get the cells to change different colors or do different things based on the information that's in them to trigger you to action. And then some simple math functions. We'll look at the math formulas and the symbols around how to do sums and minus and divide and multiply. It's a little bit different symbols. It's based on what's available on the keyboard. So we'll get into all of those little things. We'll review all of these in just kind of a quick PowerPoint, and then we'll dive into the actual Excel file and view all of those things in real life. So we'll start getting into some of those. So workbook. A workbook is the actual Excel file. So what you hear from most people is they say, oh, I got this Excel file, or I'm going to send over this spreadsheet to you. In Excel language, a workbook is an Excel file. It usually defaults, as you can see, there's 3 tabs down here. I have sheet 1, sheet 2, sheet 3. You can have as many or as few as you want down to 1. Excel defaults on 3 of them. So a workbook is these multiple tabs that you have inside of an Excel file. So the worksheets are those tabs. So you can have dozens of worksheets inside of a workbook. And of course those sheets or tabs can all talk to each other because they're all contained within the same Excel file. So for the rest of this training, we're going to refer to things as a worksheet or a workbook. And now we come down to rows and columns. So within Excel, you've got rows are horizontal and columns are vertical. So my rows are all numbered, 1 down to as high as you can go. And then my columns are vertical and they're alpha identified. So A, B, C, all the way to Z. And then as soon as I pass Z, it goes to AA, AB, and just keeps on going. So again, rows are horizontal, columns are vertical. And then individual cells. So my cell, in this case, I'm looking at, I'm identifying cell C5. So I go down my rows till I hit 5. I go across my columns until I hit C, and that's how I identify a cell, in this case C5. So when you start getting into formulas and things, Excel is going to ask you, where do you want me to get that information from? And you point at a cell and identify it by its alphanumeric character. So that's how you map out everything in Excel. So fonts and border functions. So a couple ways you can go at it when you want to format and do some fonts and put some borders around the cell. You can do it from the format menu that's across the top of Excel, or a much easier way is just to do a right click. So Microsoft did a really cool job with this. So again, I got this whole format section in Excel up towards the upper left-hand area of Excel. I can go in and select a cell, and I can pick color and font size, whether I want it bold. There's all these different things built into a little quick menu there under font. So I can also go over to the font menu over on the right hand side, click format, and have this huge list of different things that I can do on my formatting. So I can adjust, I can rename, I can protect. There's all different kinds of things built into that format menu. So you just select a cell or a group of cells, hit that format menu, and just go all the way down to the bottom there and you see format cells. So in this instance, I selected some cells. I went to that format menu, and I've got this cool little menu that pops up that allows me to format into number. I can put a border around it. I can fill the cell with whatever color I want, and I can even put some protections on the cell if I want. So in this case, I'm going to select outline the cell and put some lines on the inside of the cell so I can divvy them up. And I've already selected the cells and went ahead and changed the color of each one to the name that I have there. And we'll do all this in the real Excel. So now that I've selected those borders, you can see how it put the little squares around my brown, red, blue, and yellow. So it kind of highlights those cells and makes them a little easier to view. And then some quick copy, cut, paste functions. Again, you can do that from the clipboard menu, or you can do it from a right click, the same right click that we just looked at and brought that little menu up. And there's also shortcut keys that Microsoft builds into all of its products. So quick, easy way, you look up to your upper left in Excel, and you're going to see that little cut, copy, and paste commands up in that upper left corner. So in this instance, I want to copy all of these numbers that I have in this column, and I go and select the row. I select all the numbers I want to copy, and then I just go up and hit that copy command. You see next to it where it says copy, in parentheses, it says Control plus C. So a shortcut key in Excel, without having to use the mouse, I can hold the Control key down and just hit C, and it'll do a copy for me. So I don't have to use the mouse. So all of these shortcut keys that I'm going to show you are designed for the left hand. So most people are right-handed, and they use their mouse with their right hand. So all these shortcut keys are for the left hand. So I want to do a quick copy. I select them. I can go up and just hit copy. And then now I want to paste. So Control V is paste, but there's also the big paste button you see up here in the upper left corner. Has a picture of a clipboard and says paste. Now I can just select the cell that I want the data to land in, click on paste or hit Control V, and I just made a copy of all that data. Excel does a pretty good job of just allowing you to select the one cell and it just copies all the data. You don't have to select the exact same range as you're copying from. So just when you select paste, you just pick where you want the data to start and it just autofills for you. Makes it real simple. Now it keeps it highlighted for you after you do a paste, so you can go in. It assumes you're going to want to go in and do some other formatting. So you don't have to go back and reselect that column. It's already highlighted, so from here you can go right back into doing all kinds of formatting. So right and left click functions. So left click does certain things, right clicks do certain things, and then there's some shortcut keys as well. So a left click, which is the standard click of a mouse, that just selects a cell. So if you just want to work in one cell, you want to format it, you want to do a formula in it, or you just want to highlight it for some reason, left click just selects something, just like it does in Word or a lot of other programs. It just does a quick select. Now right clicks are kind of awesome. You do the same thing with a right click and this whole menu comes up. So I can copy paste, I can do all kinds of insert and delete, format the cell. There's tons of things I can do, right down to adding a hyperlink into that cell if I wanted to. All of that comes up with just a single right click. So it takes kind of a condensed version of the command bar across the top and puts it all in that one little window for you. So now we're going to look at, I want to format these cells, and right now I just have some numbers in there, but what if I wanted to format it for dollars or for dates and those sorts of things? So again, I'm going to do that right click and I'm going to select Format Cell. And the first thing that pops up, it defaults to that first tab, which is numbers. So you can see I want it to be currency. So I'm going to select currency for that cell, which is the one with 54 in it. I want that to show me as treated as if it's dollars and not just a plain old number. So I select currency. It defaults to 2 decimal places, which is for the dollars and cents. So once I select that, I have this. I have $54 instead of just a 54. Now I could have selected the entire column and turned the entire column into dollars in one shot if I wanted to. But just quick, easy ways to change your format of your cell. And then there's filters and freeze pane. Filters and freeze pane both are good for when you have long columns of data that takes up more than your single screen, and you want to be able to sort through it or view it very easily without having to do lots of scrolling and going back and forth. So we'll show you how those work. So filters again are under the data tab. So I've got this data here, and I want to throw some filters in place. I only want to see certain bits of the data at times. So I can go to data and select filter. And when I select this top row, I want this top row here to actually have my filters in it. So I select that top row, click filter. As you can see, there's a Control-Shift-L is listed here, so that's the shortcut key. But I just select filter. And the next thing I see is I got these little filter buttons across the top of my data. So I can select any one of those buttons and select the data that I want to see, and it will filter everything else out. So a little example is I'm going to select the month column, and I can hit select all, and that will deselect everything. It clears it all out for me. And then I select January. I only want to see January's data. So after I select January and hit OK, on the right-hand side, all I'm looking at is January. So when you have these, again, long, tall columns of data, you can filter out all the stuff that you don't want to see at the moment and see just what you need to see at that moment. Nice thing is if you've got charts and graphs and different things using this data, your chart is going to change based on what you just selected. So it's really easy to go back and unselect that and go back to the full amount of data again. But it's just a really handy way to be able to filter out and kind of view only what you need to view at the moment. And then freeze panes. So freeze panes help out with, again, those long, tall columns of data. I've got a long list of data here. It goes way beyond the screen. And what happens when I scroll through the data, my top row, my title row disappears, and all I'm looking at is months and numbers. So I miss looking at that top row. I want to see my titles. So I want to freeze that top pane so it doesn't go away and the rest of my data just kind of slides up underneath it. So again, I can select that top row, go to the View tab in Excel, and then select Freeze Pane. Now a couple options will come up. The most common one is that center one, which is freeze my top row. You're going to use that one 90% of the time. So I want to freeze my top row, so I select that. And now I can scroll through my data up and down, and that top row, my row 1, doesn't disappear. It stays right where it's at. Now I can also do freeze pane for the month column. So if I had a lot of data going off to the right over here, that month column would stay right where it's at. It would freeze as well. So you can freeze columns and rows and let the data move around underneath them. So you never lose your titles. And then some conditional formatting. We'll kind of touch on this a little bit. Excel 2, we get into it quite a bit more extensively. But just a really good way to be able to kind of present some ideas so you know it's there. And we use this quite extensively on a lot of spreadsheets and analysis here at the Lighthouse. So we're going to get into a little bit about color formatting, formatting based on a condition being present, and formatting used to signal or trigger an action. So here I've got this spreadsheet. So I'm going to format this column. So I select the column, and you can select just a cell, a row, whatever you want. But in this instance, we're going to select this whole column that has our totals in it. And right there on the main bar, right on the Home tab, is conditional formatting. That conditional formatting is, being on that Home tab is something that in general is going to get used quite often. So one of my favorite things to do for conditional formatting is do color scale. So I selected color scale, and it scaled the color on that column to show me red is the lowest numbers, and green is the highest numbers, and yellow is everything in between. So I can very quickly have a color scale to identify what are the high numbers, what are the low numbers. So that's just one instance of what you can do with conditional formatting. So I've got another way you can do conditional formatting is I'm going to select a very particular cell. In this case, I have H3. So go across to H and go down to 3. So I've got this cell right now that's green, and it says yes. So there's multiple conditional formattings going on in that one cell. What I have in there under conditional formatting, under the rules manager, is if it says yes in this cell, it turns green. If it says no in the cell, it turns red. So right now it says yes in the cell, so it's green. But what makes it say yes? Go back one. Sorry. What makes it say yes? Well, I have the cell selected right now. H3 is selected, and you can see up on the formula bar, there's a formula in there that says if J is higher than 4,000, say yes. If it's not, say no. So again, I've got multiple formulas and conditional formattings working together. So it's right now J1 is 4145. It's higher than 4,000, so it's going to put yes in that cell. And then since it does say yes, it's going to turn green. So like again, a lot of different things that we use here at the Lighthouse and in other areas is instead of trying to look at some data and make some decisions, if it says yes or no, or it says green, it's green or it's red, it just triggers an action very easily. So it's really simple to hand somebody a spreadsheet and say, hey, anything that's red, go correct those. Anything that's green is fine. You don't need to do anything. So a lot of different really cool ways that you can do conditional formatting to trigger different actions. And then some simple math functions. What's that sideways M that you see in Excel? We'll do some selecting of rows and columns to do some sums. And then the symbols that Excel uses for math functions is a little different. So we're looking at this spreadsheet. I'm looking at that total, that sum column over there, and I'm looking at February that I have highlighted there, and I've got 15, 49, 15, and I know that doesn't equal 2. So obviously there's a problem in there. There's not a formula in there adding that up for me. So I can select that row and go and hit auto sum. So that sideways M is the Greek symbol for sum or for total. So in Excel, when you select a row, it will default to the first empty cell it sees on the right. If you select a column, it'll select the first empty cell on the bottom. So unless you tell it otherwise, it's going to go to the right or to the bottom. So in this instance, I'm going to select those three numbers, 15, 49, and 15 there, and go and just click auto sum, and it puts the formula in there for me. So 79 is the correct answer. So now I have a formula built in there. Real simple. So if I left click on the cell and select it, I'm viewing the formula up in the formula bar that it put in there for me. Equal sum C8 through E8. So it put that in there for me. I didn't have to type that in. I selected the row and I hit auto sum. So a lot of mathematical formulas in Excel, especially simple sums like that, are really easy to do just by selecting a group of cells and hitting auto sum. So a few other math symbols in Excel. Equals is actually what you use to start a formula. So if you start to type in a cell and you start typing up on the math bar or that formula bar up on top, you start with an equals. It automatically assumes you're doing a formula of some sort. If you type anything else other than equals, it's just going to assume you're doing some text. You're just going to fill it in with some verbiage of some kind. So formulas always start with an equals. Of course, the plus and minus symbol are add or subtract. Now to divide is the backslash symbol, and the asterisk is for multiplication. So we're used to the X being multiplication, growing up in school, but in Excel they use the asterisk symbol for multiply. So some simple formulas in this sample, and we'll go into the live Excel and look at it. Here I have equals as the very first symbol, so it jumps into formula mode. And my formula I have here is C5, so whatever is in C5 plus whatever is in C6 multiplied by whatever is sitting in D7 divided by D8, and then subtracting 2. So I just have a bunch of different cells being added, multiplied against each other, and then at the end have 2 subtracted from it. And based on what's in the cells, all those cells currently, my answer is 73.4. So there's my answer here. So Excel does some really interesting things when you're doing even simple mathematics like this. Being that it's a computer, it does exactly what you tell it to and not necessarily what you want it to do. So some of the cautions around doing formulas in Excel, especially like this one, is the parentheses or the quotes that I have around these different cells over here. So if I didn't have those, the answer would be completely different than 73.4. It's actually around 104, I believe, is the result I get. So what those brackets do around the cells is it tells Excel, do the C5 plus C6 first, and then do the D7 to D8 second, and then multiply the 2, and then subtract 2. So the brackets around a formula actually tell it how to do the math in what order. If we removed those brackets, it would be doing them just one after another in order, which can give you a different answer depending on the numbers. So those brackets help you have a lengthy formula without having to worry about which order it's being done in. So any questions so far before we jump into the live Excel version?
Nothing so far.
Fantastic. Well, again, just jump in at any time when you guys do have a question. So here we are in the live Excel version, and again, we'll get into a little bit about, in this case, formatting. And I have the the text here brown, red, blue, yellow, and I want them to be a little bit larger. I'm going to go to my home screen. I want to increase the font size. So let's select all 4 of them. And let's just say I want to increase the font size. So I can hit the up arrow here on my fonts and have it just keep bumping up to the size I really like it to be. Or I can decrease. I can change the font. We can get all fancy. So a lot of different font changes, different things you can do like that very easily. So now I want brown to be brown. Again, I can go back. Here's my where I do my font color. And I have this nice little palette of colors to select from. There, I can change that one to brown. Let's change red to red. So again, really easy to change font colors. And yellow. So again, pretty simple to change font colors. Now, what we showed earlier as well was, I want this to have borders. So I'm doing a right click, and here's my cool little right click menu that pops up. I'm going to format my cell and just jump over to borders. So I'm going to select outline. I'm going to select lines on the inside, and I can actually select a thicker line. So let's do that. Hit OK. And now I've got this nice thick border all around all those different colored terms that I have there. Makes it visually very easy to separate out the data. So pretty simple to format different words and text like that. So now into copy. What we showed earlier on the training is I could select this column of data that I want to copy. And again, I can go up and just select, go up here and select copy, or I can hit Control C. So I just copied that data, and Excel puts a nice little marquee line around it, moving line around it, kind of lets you know that's what you just copied. So I want to paste that data right next to it. So again, I can hit this big paste button, or I can just hit Control V, and just copied all that data for me. Now that I have that selected, I can go back to my format cell. This time I'm going to go to number and tell it I want that column to show me as currency instead, and change it to numbers. So I got a number column and I have a column with currency. Now what Excel will do sometimes under this format cell is I can have that as text. It took away my dollar symbol, but I can go back and add where'd the dollar symbol go? I can go and add that dollar symbol in there, and it looks like it's formatted for currency. But if I was using a formula to add all those together, it would ignore that cell, because I've conditioned that cell to text instead of to currency. Right now it shows that cell as text, and if I went to total that column, it would ignore that cell. So when you do formatting, you got to be real careful around some of that, because it'll ignore it, and you're trying to figure out what's wrong with your numbers, something's not adding up right, or a cell should be triggering red but it's still green, things like that. And you can have one cell in the mix conditioned a certain way, in this case text, and it'll ignore it in a formula because it's just words as far as it's being told right now. So again, that's another case of Excel doing exactly what it's told instead of what you want it to do. And then filters. So again, here's a bunch of data that I've got here, and I want to be able to throw some filters in there so I only see what I want to see at the time. So I'm going to select this top row and go to Data and Filter. And it just put little filter buttons across the top. And now if I want, I can hit Select All, and that clears it. And I only want to see January and February right now. I don't want to see anything else. So it just eliminated everything else that was in the spreadsheet and just shows me January and February. So I use this quite extensively in the database I have for training. So I'm always looking to see who's been through what training, how long of a time span it's been between trainings, and I can use the filter button to look for who hasn't been through a certain training and who do they report to as a manager by using multiple filters, and I can send those messages out very easily that way. So the filter comes in very handy. And then to go back to where I was, I just hit Select All and OK. And then here's basically the same data, but a much taller column. But again, if I try to scroll through it, my top row disappears with my titles. So I want to freeze that. So again, I'm selecting this top row. I'm going to go to View, since this has to do with viewing, and I'm going to select Freeze Pane. Now I can keep the rows and column visible. I can freeze the top row, or I can freeze a column. In this case, I'm freezing my top row, most common one. And there. So now as I scroll through my data, my column or my top row stays there with all of my data labels. So again, this comes in handy when you've got lots of data to scroll through, and those titles are extremely important as far as what you're going to select. And then some quick sums. Let's widen these out so they show. Whenever you see those number symbols in Excel like that, it's because the column is too narrow. So you just widen it out a little bit. And it's just letting you know the column's not wide enough for me to display the data. So this was that spreadsheet we were looking at earlier that had the multiple colors of all the different colors in the cell from red to green. This was marked yes at the time. So now I want to do some quick sums. So I'm going to select these three and back to my home button. So a couple different things we can do. I can do just a quick auto sum. And of course, there's lots of other formulas and things that I can do with that cell. But in this case, we're just going to do a quick auto sum. And we're going to have it land over here. So without me even selecting it, it just automatically assumes when I'm going from left to right is put it in the next empty cell to the right. Now I want to do that same math. I want that same sum all the way down through this. Well, I could sit there and do that for every cell if I wanted to. Or, as you see in the corner here, there's this little square in the corner. And my cursor goes to a cross instead of an arrow. Well, I can select that, drag it all the way through, release, and it copies that formula for me all the way down in one shot. So you can do copy paste of formulas, and Excel will assume based on the formula above you want me to continue it through all the rows. So it didn't copy the formula from A2 and B2 and C2. Each one changed. As you can see as I scroll through them, each one of them changes. That one's C4 to E4, C5 to E5, and on down the line. So it just copied all those formulas in there for me. So here again we have this conditional formatting where I'm telling Excel if that cell here, which is J1, if J1 is greater than 4,000, put yes in there. So it's less than 4,000, so it says no, and the conditional formatting is turned it red for now. So let's say we go over here, we change some of these numbers, and let's jump over to this one, change that to a much higher number. So all of a sudden my number is above 4,000. Now it says yes, it turned green. And that formula we looked at earlier with the brackets, C5 plus C6 multiplied by D7 divided by D8 with the minus 2, my answer right now, based on the information that's there, is 9.4. But here's the same exact formula without the brackets. It's 14. So again, that's why those brackets are really important depending on the math that you're trying to do. So in this case, I need to see what the result of C5 plus C6 is first before I do any other math. In this formula, it's doing C5 plus C6, multiply it by D7, then divide it by D8, and then minus 2. So it's doing all the mathematical functions in order, where the brackets are breaking the math functions up, doing them separate, and then coming together later. So completely different answer depending on where you place those brackets. And then a quick chart. This is a chart of the data that's in the previous sheet, in the sum sheet. I've got just a quick chart sitting here. But charts are actually pretty easy to do in Excel. A lot of the functions of a chart are actually built in. So I can select this group of data here, let's say just to this point. I want to see this data charted out. So I can select that group of data, hit insert, and just select a chart. So here's a quick bar chart, just a real simple, the first default is a simple little chart, and there it is. So pretty simple to do a chart in Excel. If I select the same data, and I can do a nice little line chart. So a lot of different types of charts you can select, but it's pretty easy to do a chart in Excel by selecting the data, go to Insert and Chart. So when we look at the chart over here, it's connected to this other tab, the Sums tab. So let's look, we're looking at January's data. It's kind of low down here, it's under 50. Let's go back up to the tab up here and change the data a little bit. We'll put some much higher numbers in here. And we'll change this one to 141. So we change the data, of course the sums and different things over here change. We look at the chart and all of a sudden those bars pop up. So that chart's connected to the other tab. You can have a chart on another workbook somewhere and the chart will update. You can have it across the network somewhere on somebody else's folder, and when you make changes to the data, their chart will update. So Excel will hyperlink through a network and make changes like that. So the chart doesn't have to be on the same page as your data. It can be on a different tab, it can be in another workbook, and it can be in another workbook in another folder across the network somewhere. They will all communicate with each other that way. And then some simple little formulas. So here I want to do 3 plus 4, and some real simple ways again to do that. is I always start out with my equals sign, and you can just start selecting the cells. So I select that cell, I want to add it to that cell. It's building the formula up here for me. It's highlighting the cells and showing me again what my formula is going to look like here. And I can hit enter and the sum drops in. So pretty simple to hand type in formulas in Excel. Again, here I'm going to do a simple equals to start my formula. I'm going to select that cell minus that cell, and look what it did. Kind of ignored my formula. I have my formula typed in, but it ignored it. So when we talked about your cell being text formatted, so there I am formatted as text, not as a number. So Excel treated it like text and ignored my formula. So now if I go in and retype that formula, now it treats it like a number. So again, that text formatting can sneak up on you. So for multiplication, 4 times 3. And there's that text formatting coming up on you again. I can tell it I want less decimals. I do wish it would automatically reformat that for you, though. There. And then divide the same thing. So that cell slash is our divider, and there's our answer. So, any questions on that stuff, folks? Nope. Okay. Well, I'll send you this file that has everything that we've done in it, so you can do a little playing around with it. It does have some additional tabs that we go into in the next training, which we go into vertical lookups. We're going to get into how to do tables. And then we'll also get into a couple sheets that we've done in the past. One that we used for our Biggest Loser contest, but I took all the names out because I would be run out of the building if I threw everybody's weight with their name on it. I have a bunch of celebrities on there. And then a couple other fun things that we've done with some formulas to flip names around and that sort of thing. So if there's any questions or comments, feel free to give me a call. I've got my email address attached to this. And but if there's no other questions, I'll let you guys get back to work.